Well, this is the, trying to think of what the date is, 16th, right?
Yeah,
Of June,
that's right.
94.
Right, so?
Frankie and I are sitting outside here in Mimi's place, munching a lunch, and plan to do some talking. Having said that, Frankie and I are trying to find a place to start talking, or a subject, rather, and we thought maybe discussing the trolley line. All right, Frankie?
Righty.
It's right with you.
It's all right with me.
Okay, well, it started in Groton, right?
Started over by the ferry.
Right, exactly.
Because that's the way you had to go to New London.
Right.
You would go as far as the ferry stop and then go across on the ferry.
Of course, I want to say that the railroad bridge was there, but the car bridge was not.
Not
There was a low car bridge a number of years afterwards, but then that was ripped down when they put the big ones in. But the ferry was what everybody used.
I can remember going to New London to Ocean Beach. My mother would take my sister and I over, and we'd take a lunch with us, and we'd go to Ocean Beach maybe once or twice during the summertime. We'd ride over as far as Groton on the trolley and then go across on the ferry, then take a trolley down to the beach. And they had those open trolleys then.
Oh, in the summertime,
yeah. It was very nice.
I don't think that the Stonington and Groton Traction Company had open trolleys. Do you recall?
They had open trolleys.
Yeah,
they went through, and they went just in the summertime, and they went down. Went down to Watch Hill.
But that was a different company,
yeah.
though, wasn't it?
Yeah, they'd meet the other. I imagine it was. They would meet on the bridge, right around the corner from the bridge.
Because the trip from Stonington to Groton, I never took it the whole way, but that must have taken what, a long time.
Oh, it took a long time.
I mean, those trolleys just chugged along.
They were old. What I mean, they were old in our time.
Right, and they used to say that it would stop at every house, and when it came to a double house, it'd stop twice.
Yeah, I can remember. I can remember one time there was a conductor that was on one of the trolley cars, and he operated it. I can't remember his name now, but he would stop the trolleys in the country part of Wickety-Quack. We'd see a deer or something. He'd say, "Now isn't that a lovely sight?" and stop the trolley car and talk about it, all those things, Oh God, it was something.
Well, I can remember once when on the trolley coming from Groton. I don't know what happened west of Stonington. I came along Route 1 by the cemetery, and then I'm sure came down with the logical way. And I'm almost positive, although Frank won't corroborate this with me, that there was a two-track passing section just before we got to Lambert Cove Bridge.
I don't remember that. Across.
I want to interrupt. The only reason I remember it is because I remember waiting there.
Yeah.
I assumed that was what it was for.
Because across the street was the property, part of the property of Manor Inn.
Oh yes, that was all Manor Inn, the golf course.
The golf course.
Right.
And that was before our time. There was all fields, and there was a racetrack there. And if you flew over the place, you could see the tracks of the racetrack.
I'm going to diverge a little bit here because I wonder, Frankie, if you remember the time when an airplane came down on the golf course.
Yeah.
By mistake. Yeah. And I remember Charles Palmer, that's Al Palmer's grandfather, who was a locomotive engineer, was out there when the plane was there, and he was carrying a white sheet, and he took full credit for guiding the plane into the airport because nobody believed what Albert said, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I remember that, but I remember playing up there in the fields, and they had strawberries. There was three old gals that ran the Manor Inn, and Mr. Robinson was the manager. And we would go up there, and we would pick the strawberries for them. And she would be up there with binoculars watching us pick them, so we wouldn't eat them, and we'd be picking them and pushing them. Oh, it was funny.
I'm trying to think of how you got to the manor, and it seemed to me that was sort of a...
There was an entrance way up by Paul Burgle's house.
Yeah.
Remember where Paul Burgle lived?
Yeah.
And Spaulding, way
right.
up
the
beyond.
George Spaulding.
There was a very nice-looking driveway, and it went in and across a little bridge across the water, and then up the hill in front of the inn and down the other side, and then it
there was
went
a little
around.
brook, wasn't there? There some
Yeah,
point?
there was a brook where the bridge was.
Yeah. But as you envisage the Manor Inn, the building itself.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was on the hill.
right, but I have memories of it which probably are not very accurate. It's a sort of a combination of the architecture is a combination of the old Babcock House where the post office is now. And some other building came to mind, but I think it had columns in front with a porch in front, rocking chairs and things.
Because they had on one side every Thursday afternoon they'd have tea up there.
Right.
And it would be outside there on the porch in the summertime.
Because when I was a pre-teenager, tea was a big deal. I don't recall ever going up there for tea, but for social reasons, I'm sure that's what
they
took
used to
place.
have dances.
Right.
There, and there was quite a lot of things that was happening. Then, of course, when it started to be well known and everything, when people were coming there and staying there by the week, they finally, I don't know, I think it was Mr. Robinson that had the idea of the golf course, making all that land into the golf course. So they had the 9 holes there.
Right, exactly. And matter of fact, I used to play there, and I think my father used to also.
Yep, your father did, because I think I caddied for him.
You might have, but because the better players thought that Watch Hill was far superior, but this happened to be nearby.
Yeah.
I'm trying to recall with a little more detail about the trolley. And I recall one time when I was going on the trolley, or going to get on the trolley, as it turned at the Elm Street crossing, where there was an old wooden shed, and it seems to me it had shingles on it, and there was a lightning storm, and everybody got off the trolley for fear of something going on. I mean, lightning striking the wires or something. And there was flame up it. Seemed to be some fancy switch boxes up on the wall. At least I recall lightning having some effect there, and scared the hell out of us kids, I can assure you.
Yeah, I forget who that was. I think his father had a blacksmith shop on right in back of where Hess's used to have the garage. You remember the Hess's garage there? Yeah. He had a blacksmith shop there, and they lived up on the hill right by the railroad track across from there.
Because I have a friendly feeling about the Hess garage, because once the York Premier car trying to get over the tracks, that being a curve, I think sharper than it is now, meant that you were up and down, up and down, up and down to get over that thing.
Get over the track, and the people that didn't know it, they would go down, and go pretty fast, and oh boy.
And our car stuck. Our Premier stalled or something, and And I don't know who was at the helm. Maybe it was old Mr. Swallow, the family caretaker and babysitter and chauffeur and gardener and just about anything else you want.
I remember him.
Of course. He must have rushed down to Hess's and got some people there, and they pushed the car out of the way.
Yeah.
And I forget what happened then.
But that was, it was the man that used to run that. He married the housekeeper that had the house right across from Miss Perenni's now, coming down the street.
You know, I mean, Hyde.
Hyde, yeah.
Hyde.
Yeah, George
Oh,
Hyde.
that's right. You're right.
He married that woman.
Yes,
That was the house was left to her by.
Right.
And I remember for years he operated that, and I remember we'd be waiting for the trolley, and we'd be begging for a penny to buy some candy, and it was quite a thing.
Well, I still want to repeat what I put on another tape, and Frankie and I have been discussing earlier, was when the trolley came down from Lambert Cove, it turned left prior to the tracks at the crossing. And Frankie used to live in the house that was a combination of domicile, candy store, waiting room, and trolley ticket sale place.
That's right.
And then the trolley proceeded along that William Street? Yeah, William Street.
Up around Elm Street, and back onto the main line.
And on William Street, it passed the Shannon Auto Sales, from whom I purchased a used Model T Ford for $7.50. Prior to my getting a driver's license, it was a coupe enclosed device.
I bought a Durant touring car from Tony Bowser.
But now you're going ahead on the trail. Wait a minute, we got Delagrange to go by. First, then there was Delagrange, where the Spinnet factory is now, and that building was always. I don't remember that building as being built, but it was a pretty fancy building, and maybe it still is.
It was there, but I can always remember it being there. And he had, remember the Harringtons that lived down at the Point House?
Oh, yes, Carrington.
Carrington, that's
Sidney
right.
Carrington.
That's right.
The last.
They had a jackass, and he used to board it while they were away. And we used to take it out after school and go up to the Evergreen Cemetery and pick nuts way in the back there, off the ground at nut time. God, it was something.
But now in the back of Delagrange's garage, there was a separate little building in which was stored a steam pumper fire engine.
The one that was over here.
And it was part of the Borough Fire Department.
Yeah.
And it had a low head of steam up continuously.
And you had to pull that, but there was two ropes on it.
Well, I'm trying to think, did you pull that one over the horses?
Yeah. No, you couldn't. All the firemen pulled that.
Well, it's just like down here at the old Borough Hall.
Yeah.
When there were the hooks there, and because the steamers were up north, the hooks and the Neptunes, the Neps.
Right. Hooks and Neps.
And they were both hand drawn.
Sure.
And you got to a fire in the borough just as fast that way as
sure you did. You had them. You had it. What I mean, you had to pull them, and it was. They did the work of the engines that they use today.
But now was there any kind of pumping that took place? There's no point going to a fire with a ladder truck.
No.
If you haven't anything to.
They used to pump by hand.
And bucket carrying.
Yeah.
Because you remember those sort of tapered. I think the buckets were made out of leather, weren't they?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, and I forget who it was. Who it was. let's see. No, Alec Loper invented the fire alarm.
Well, he had a patent on a fire alarm system, which he built.
Yeah.
Up on the
there,
road.
And then I forget who put the water system in there where the hydrants were connected to.
Yeah. Oh.
But then, of course, a lot of times they used to use the water.
The seawater.
Yeah, seawater.
Absolutely, yeah. Because the firemen didn't like to use the seawater, and still don't, because of the corrosive effect of seawater is against pure Stonington water system.
I remember the time somebody pulled the wrong lever and the salt water went into the drinking system. Yeah, we got water from a truckload of water that was over in the parking lot all the time.
Well, we have to drift around in this conversation because things come to mind, and one thing that comes to mind to me at this point is after the '38 hurricane, which didn't have a name to the best of my knowledge, a lot of the fishing boats were washed up on the shore around Longo's Dock, and they just stayed there and sort of rotted. They weren't worth putting in the water, or they're too much damaged or something. And there was a gang, I don't know who they were, that decided that a nice 4th of July ritual was to set them on fire.
Yeah.
You remember, Frankie?
Yes, that's right. I remember that.
And you could be sure that there were plenty of fireworks, but not the boughten kind.
I can remember the '38 hurricane. My brother-in-law's boat was up and back Mr. Davis's
funeral parlor.
Funeral parlor, and I remember the Coast Guard.
Mother Davis, please.
Yeah, Mother Davis. That's right. And so he. They had an awful time getting it back. And I can remember Dr. Halliday and I was walking down the street, and there was, what was her name that used to live in the Whistler House, the so-called Whistler House. She had 3 daughters, and one of them was a trained nurse. And I think she lives in Mystic now. I don't know where the other 2 is. But the mother was coming up with the black cook, and she was rolling a rowboat right on Water Street.
She what?
Was rowing a rowboat on Water Street. Gee. That was
well, one thing that I always think of in the hurricane, we call it the hurricane. There were plenty that followed, but nothing like the hurricane. Was the man in New London. New London was badly hit, and shortly after the hurricane, this sandwich man was walking around with a sign on his front, his back, said, "Pay me 50 cents and I'll listen to your hurricane story." I felt like doing that in St. Croix after Hugo hit us.
But that was a terrific thing. They say that 100 years from that date, they had another terrible one. And those houses, the place where my store is, and across the street, Charlie's store, and one up on the corner that Cole's, Mrs. Cole used to own it.
Evelyn Cole?
Evelyn Cole. They were
Evelyn Cole.
Evelyn Cole. They all were raised up because of the water coming up so far.
You mean after the '38 hurricane or prior to?
100 years before
the hurricane. Really?
100 years before. And it was the exact, I'm told it was the exact same day. Excuse me, and the date.
Well,
so
because I lost 3 boats. I was driving between Litchfield and Cambridge, Mass, and I got as far as through Hartford, and listening on the radio, which I had a unique radio in my car at that time, and I heard about what was going on, and I immediately drove down to the borough, and as I somehow approached through Vargas Four Corners, well, Vargas Corners, but that wasn't Four Corners at that time.
No.
And I said to my then wife, if Ethel had put over another anchor, that my houseboat would be safe. And I just drove a few 100 yards ahead, and there, by the side of the road, was one half of my houseboat.
Mm.
So I figured, anchor or not, there it was. And on that particular bulkhead that was there, I had mounted a beautiful combination Chelsea clock and Chelsea barometer, and I doubt that people stole it. I think it must have just been ripped off by the travel there.
Mm.
Well, now we're getting too far up to date when we're in 38.
Yeah.
Right. So that clang you may have heard is the 1 o'clock borough clock.
Borough clock.
Or the and I have a story about the borough clock. I think it's too good a story, and I hesitate to tell it because I'm afraid Frankie might knock it down. Shall I give it a whirl?
Yeah.
All right. I want to write this up someplace because I think it's a good story, true or not. Stories don't have to be true to be good. I'm talking about the community house, and I think you referred to it in an earlier tape of what we call the community house.
Yeah.
Right.
The community house, what I mean, was on Water Street, the one that I was talking about.
That's the one I mean.
It was the old church.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, was it ever a church?
Yeah, it was. I think it was a Baptist church, and it had.
Was the other Baptist church still down here?
Well, I don't think the other one was built then.
Oh, come on, Frankie.
No, that was an old church.
The one up there, opposite where the printing press was for a while?
Yeah, where the printing press was. That was a church, and it had a steeple. I can remember they took the steeple off, and you had to go upstairs to have the service and everything. There was a big hall there, and we played basketball.
And there was a sort of a balcony on the south side of the room.
Yeah.
And I listened to the first radio. I don't know whether it was Harry Babcock that had the radio or who did.
I think the first radio that was in town was Paul Broxy.
Well, he had
his name was Borowski. He made it himself.
And he was on Pearl Street. He had a store on Pearl Street, just a couple of doors away from the corner where Joe Squadrito's shop was.
He worked for Mr. Fort for a while.
Right, Albert Fort.
Albert Fort, and then he went on his own.
Right, that's right, I remember.
And I remember he was the first one in town to build one. There might have been other people in private homes, that had them, but for sale, he would build one.
Well, am I correct in saying that C.P. Williams, or was it Whalen?
Charles P. Williams.
That got Albert Fort from England to wire up his house.
Yeah, it was Mr. Whalen, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, because Williams had, what I mean, in that time, there was no electric.
Right.
And it was all lamps.
But then C.P. Williams had the thing up on Stone Ridge, up on Montauk Avenue.
But C.P. Williams built that house of Whalen's. I think Whalen bought it from him.
I think so.
Yeah. And then
before your time and before mine, let's face it.
And then Miss Kebbins bought it, and she took 13 rooms off that house.
Off the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I forget who bought it after her. They took a couple more rooms off the side.
Well, I want to go on with my story, true or false, but it's about the community house, which had the steeple that Frankie talked about, and there were a number of guys, Gus Mueller, Ernest Steepout, and maybe Charlie. I don't know who they all were. They decided they'd put a clock in the steeple. All right, Frankie?
I don't remember the clock there. No.
Oh, come on.
No. Not Ernie. Ernie wouldn't be in anything.
Well, I'm not sure that Ernie, but
you might be talking about the Congregational Church.
No.
Because I don't ever remember a clock on that one.
Oh, I can see it in my mind's eye. Maybe but my story is, and I don't think I fabricated an awful lot, was that they put this clock in the steeple, sort of semi-permanently, it seemed, and they decided that the reason for it, there were two reasons for it. Even though you could look 100 yards to the east and see the Congregational church clock, and they put this clock there because they had it lighted. And Frankie, you must remember they had it lighted.
I can't remember.
Well,
I'm just
this
trying
is
to
not
think.
But my story goes on, and even though Frankie might not be able to remember it, that's not going to shoot it down because I think it's going to stand on its own feet. And the clock showed, they wanted to show daylight time, which they did. And the state officials came by one day and told the boys that it was against the law for a public clock to show anything but standard time. And you remember, Frankie, the town clock always used to strike standard time, right?
That's right.
And displayed it. Yeah. So the boys that were behind this project got together and said, well, we'll take care of that. And some weeks later, the state official, building official, inspector, whatever he was, just happened to pass by and noticed that still showed daylight time to him. So he called the guys together and said, this is a serious offense here. You have to take care of it, correct it. And the group said, oh, it's all taken care of. Well, what do you mean? The inspector said, well, look, if you read the numbers on the clock, you will notice that it reads standard time. But if you disregard the numbers on the clock, it reads daylight time. So that they just set the clock 55 minutes, the hands, or they didn't set the hands, they set the face, because it was a temporary clock. They set the face back 55 minutes, so that if you read the numbers, it said standard time. If you decided the time by the placement of the hands, it was daylight time, and that's all anybody cared about.
Yeah.
Do you buy that at all, Frankie?
Well, I haven't ever heard that.
First of all, you got to admit it's a good story.
It is a good story, but as I said, Ernie, I don't think Ernie was in town when they took the steeple off.
Why did they take the steeple off?
Well, they were going to do somebody bought the building, and then they decided that they would turn it into a public building, and they could use the place where the seats were as a hall and play basketball there. And they played basketball there, and they played basketball across the street where Bob Jones' office is now on the third floor. And,
but wasn't that building ruined in it wasn't the 38 hurricane?
Yeah, they had a big fire. No, they had
a big fire.
It was a fire in the Potter Block.
Oh, in the Potter Block. No, but I mean across the way.
No, that was done over. I think Anderson bought it.
Well, Jerry moved his plant there.
Yeah, and then they made it into a one
floor.
Star.
Well,
yeah,
but the foundation has been used, and I'm sure still is used, for the original building.
That's right.
But there's no trace of the original building there.
There's no trace of the down below. They might be some in the back. I think I know it's the same foundation. But
I know that.
Then of course Ryan's property comes up to the back there, and he used to be a barn there.
Now, quickly, when you mentioned Ryan, he was in the coal business.
He was in the coal business.
Didn't he have a coal supply to the east of his house on High Street?
He had some coal in there, not too much.
Yeah. But then there was one on Elm Street.
The big one was on Elm Street.
Right.
And that was after he used to have horses and wagons that he used to rent out. And he had, well, you'd call them taxis. What I mean, they were closed, I don't know what, there was a name for it. And it was like they're all closed in, and you see the Queen of England in a couple of them.
I never saw her in one in the borough.
No, but I say she has a lot of them there. I went to see them in the.
I remember he had a livery stable.
Yeah, well, it was a livery stable.
And Elwood, remember, had a boat livery.
And they would take it. I can remember going to a funeral, and I was riding in one of them in the back, and I was waving to. There's a lot there. He remembers a church, and it had a steeple on it. And they took the steeple off, and Mr. Bradley and Mr. Atwood over here, and a couple others, had the upstairs fixed into a basketball rink, and downstairs there was a pool room that they had made, and then they put chairs in and had a small library there for the children and for the grown-ups. And it didn't amount to too much. I mean, people didn't seem to care too much about it. So finally they sold it to Jerome Anderson. Jerome,
the publisher.
Yeah, and Jerome moved from the brick building having a Kingdom is now. He was upstairs in that. And he moved into there and he enlarged it, and he took off the basketball court and made it into one building. And then he sold it to somebody else, I forget what his name was. And it's been sold 3 times. Now it's a place for garden architects. And you go there to get trained. And
Is that the building on the corner? Is it on Pearl Street, the corner?
No, it's on Water Street, right next to Charlie Ryan's. Charlie Ryan's. And the Roll House, I can remember before Effie remembers. In fact, he should remember that the Hakes sisters lived there, and they came to Stonington, and they retired. They were teachers, and they taught the children of the Kodak people. And the Kodak was a small company, and they had stocks in it, and an awful lot of money. So they bought that house, and the house was owned by an estate at that time, and they bought it, and they came, and they had a cook and a chauffeur.
What was their name again, Frank?
Hakes. H-A-K-E-S, I think. They were sisters. And then they had a brother, and one sister died, then the other one died, then the brother bought it and inherited it, and he sold it to Dr. Halliday. So then across there in the Stan house, where he said Dr. Taylor was, women's. Used to be a superintendent of the mill. He lived there.
What was his name?
Women's, Carl Women's.
Women's?
W-I-N-N-E-S. He was Johanna Stanton's brother. She was Women's. And he lived there, and he took in a lot of these wealthy people that wanted to come to Scranton. They would get a room there. He had like 3 or 4 bedrooms upstairs in this room. And the people that lived there would eat up to McGrath's house. It was McGrath's sisters. And they would eat up there. After they came on weekends and to stay. She would feed them.
Where did she live?
She lived up on North Water Street, right across from where Alveda Lewis. There were some Portuguese people that were house now. And they moved into a couple apartments, one up and one down. And she used to take, I think your mother stayed there, didn't she?
Well,
but I mean, ate there.
Katie, are you talking about the boarding house?
Yeah.
Katie Weber's.
No.
We used to, when we came on weekends,
Yeah.
we used to eat there, and
Yeah.
I think we did stay there once in a while.
Yeah, because Harry Babcock's mother used to eat there every day.
I think she was German, Frankie, wasn't she?
Well, yeah, they were German, and he was superintendent of the mill. And so then they ate up the McGraths. You remember the McGrath sisters?
Yeah, I didn't think they had anything to eat up there.
Yeah, that's all they had. They didn't have anything to. I think they had 2 rooms or something that they let some of the friends use, and then of course there was all the rest of it. It hasn't changed much. I mean, the only places that changed, there was a grocery store, there was a barber shop. Jones lives now. There was a shoe shop there, and then there was a grocery store, and he sold it to the Portuguese baker, and he had a baker shop there. And the post office was where Bobby Jones has his office now.
Yeah.
That was a post office.
Bill Gillis, in his memoirs, said that that the hall that you talked about was where the high school had its basketball games, and he, as the headmaster of the high school, had to sweep out the hall, and he had to start the fire, and he had to sell the tickets. So that was in a day where costs were low, and a person had many tasks, not the specialized tasks that they have today. Well, so we listen to what Epi has to say again.
Yeah.
Did you want to make some comment about the barber shop, Frank?
Yeah. My grandfather was a barber, and he had his barber shop was down in back of the drugstore and the property where the cranes live now. His barber shop was right in the lower yard in the corner. It was a small shop, but he would always cut my hair, and I wanted my hair cut long, and it was curly hair, and he cut it all off. I got mad, and so I went down to his place. Then I had to pay for it. And,
How much did a haircut cost in those
like
days?
40 cents, I think.
40 cents? That was...
So you'd go in, and the only one that could cut it the way I wanted was Cornelius. And old Joe, he would get through with his customer, and he'd say, "All right, come on, Peter. I'm going to wait for Cornelius." Boy, he used to get mad, because I wanted Cornelius instead of him. And there's a lot of people who wait, but they finally told Joe what they wanted, and they're waiting. It's going to wait for Cornelius. But it was some barber shop. You heard everything you had.
How often did you get your hair cut in those days?
Oh, I don't know, about every 8 weeks, I guess.
8 weeks? Well, I think some men get it cut more often than that, maybe every 2 weeks.
I was just a kid, but then I get now. This haircut will last me 2 months.
Well, that's a skinhead cut.
Yeah.
Sort of like an old whiffle, we used to call them.
Yeah, and I used to get a short haircut all the time because my hair was curly, and I didn't want curly hair.
What color was your hair?
My hair was black, a sort of light black. And my sister had curly hair, and she had gray silver curly hair when she was 18 years old.
Oh, now which sister was this? Your sister Mary?
My sister Margaret.
Margaret.
House. And she didn't have to go to anybody, beauty parlor. When beauty parlor first started coming in, oh, she wanted to go, and she wanted to go. And they said, what do you want to go for? And she says, well, I wanted to fix my hair. I'm not sure I have different colors. And I says, well, you can go and have your hair washed. But she said, I don't want you to cut your hair. I don't want that one. So she did that. And my aunts, they thought, her hair was so good, that it should never be cut, and it should be arranged, so they used to do it.
How did she wear it?
Just wore it back on like this.
And curled at the bottom like a page boy?
It curled all over. And it was close to her head, but she stood and curls out like that. Mine was right down to my head, even when you cut it short. About a week or so afterwards, the curls would come out.
Well, the girls must have thought you were beautiful, Frank.
Oh, yeah. I could see some pictures. I've got them around the house, but I can't find them since I moved down there. And then I had a picture of the kindergarten in school over there. And I had a Dutch haircuts, I used to come down here and then cut across and down. And they were Bob's hair. But it was a color of the Dutch cut. And my aunts, I'd go to my aunts and they would take me to the barber shop. They always went with me. And so I could show them get that cut that way. So I must have been about 5 or 6 then. And when I was 7 years old, my dad died. And so after we went, they used to still take me to the barber shop. So one day, it was a Saturday, I went over for the weekend to stay with my cousin, who lived right down below there. And so my grandmother said, I think you need a haircut, Frank. You think you can go down there and get it? And I said, sure, I can get it down. So she gave me the money and everything. I went down and I said to her, I want my haircut just like a boy's. I don't want this girl's haircut. And he says, does your grandmother say you can have it? And I said, she told me to get a haircut. And so he didn't want to do it, but he gave me a haircut like a boy. When I went back, grandmother cried. My aunts come home from work and they cry. Oh, you want to spoil your hair, I said, it'll grow out again. But I said, I'm not going to have a girl's haircut. But all the boys had it when they were in the kindergarten. But it was funny. And that's why I remember it. So I always went to Keane's barber shop after my grandfather. He would cut it the way I remember it.
Okay, let's listen to Eppie again. Okay, Frank, do you have any memories of the Coffee Cup restaurant?
Well, I have memories way before the Coffee Cup restaurant. There was another restaurant there, and you see now. The Coffee Cup Wrestling was in back of right at the end of Bob Jones's office in the back there on High Street and Pearl Street. And there around where he said the Coffee Cup was, before the Coffee Cup, there was a restaurant ran by two journeymen, and they the shipyard was in World War One, because they had private dining room in the back of the office house of the shipyard that was building boats down there. And then after them, Mr. Rosen took over. He had a shoe shop down in the corner, and repaired shoes, and he had he moved up there, and then he went into the clothing business. So he sold clothes and shoes, had shoes, and some other man had a hardware store. And the antique shop was known as an antique shop. And then next door, of course, going up the street was Friedman's clothing store, and then there was where Ronnie's store was. There was a Mr. Stanton. He had a pool room. He had a pool room there, and a candy shop, and then he had like a little food concession, and then beyond that, underwear. Epi says
the Traveler.
Straight mirror was painted upstairs there. Downstairs was the Adams Express Company.
Adams Express?
Adams Express. There was a woman's hat shop next to where Johnny Marino built his liquor store. That was where the trains came down and went down to the shipyard. And Johnny Marino bought that land afterwards and put that house up right across the street where Roy Cole owns that little gift shop, the woman is across from Janice.
Yes.
And Janice is in Johnny Marino's place. Those two places wasn't there. And I remember because the planes went down the shipyard, and then there was the turntable with the train engine on, and they shut the planes up to the side, and they fall on the train and go back to Providence. And the boat took all the passengers there down in New York. And then there was a hat shop on the other side, and across from Coffee Cup, there was a meat market, Mr. Dimmick's meat market. And, Richard Dimmick's father owned it. Then, where I was, there was a my store, which was a paper store, and I can remember Ruth Monjo's father ran it for a while, and Gilmore family ran it for a while. Stiles Gilmore family ran it for a while. That was in the 1800s. And I think Mr. Haley ran it. And then after Mr. Haley, Mr. Birch. Robert Birch.
What was his first name?
Robert Birch. And then Mrs. Byron worked for him as a secretary, and he took sick and he couldn't do it anymore, so she bought it. And her husband ran it. I worked there for him towards the end of it, and they sold it to me. And I was working over at the electric Bolton, Sunday. My mother ran it with a girl from Keane for college. Used to live in the Stone and Maine. So I had no sense. And next door to across from there was a grocery store and a liquor store and a grocery store and an ice cream parlor at different times. Charlie was now. When he had so that's belonged to Community Strata-Rita, his father gave it. Then he built a store where the insurance company is now. He built that for his daughter, and she lived above the store, and they had an ice cream parlor in there. Then when we started to sell liquor, they had a liquor store there. They divided and put a liquor store in there afterward.
What was there ever anything on what was the parking lot for the liquor store?
That was Eugene Perkins. Eugene Perkins. He had a house that was right next to Ray's house now, and just a small little entrance right by Ray's front door where he went into his backyard. And his house, onto his house, connected a candy shop and a miscellaneous shop.
Bicycles.
And a bicycle shop. And he had a little teeny bit of an automobile, you remember that? And he had a big fat daughter.
You remember the wife and the daughter?
Yeah.
They looked like dummies, old-fashioned dummies.
Yeah.
They went out and they went in and they went out again.
Well, Dottie used to, she would get in the back seat of this little, it was like, what do you call those cars? It was an English car. It was only about that long, remember? About that high. And he would take a ride in the afternoon, and on the front door he would put, "Going to the milling, be back in 5 minutes." I remember that. And he was trying to bring, I used to buy a penny candy. Effie, Effie, wasn't Effie, it was Hank Palmer, Dan Gilmore, and myself. We would go down there at lunchtime after we had our dinners, and we used to have a dinner at noontime, and we had an hour and a half from school, and we'd go down there and buy penny candy for dessert.
I used to steal pennies from Mother and go down there and buy Cupid dolls. Little celluloid Cupid dolls.
Yeah, and that was quite a thing, that shop. And then they tore it down, and they had a parking lot there. And I lived in the house behind it. And Mr. Way, he bought it when we were living there.
Mr. Way bought the house from your family?
No, there was a Portuguese man on it. He rented it. He rented it, and then my sister bought 70 Main Street where
Rowena?
Rowena lives. And so then we moved up there. So, but then down after Oh, there was another clothing store up where Eppie says Ernie's was. Ernie was the last one that had a restaurant in there. We moved down where the A&P used to be. And the A&P used to be where right where the restaurant is down below.
Noah's?
Noah's. There was Mr. Grandy in the Noah's entrance. That was a store. He had an A&P shop there. And the next shop was an A&P shop. And, excuse me, then Pete DeLage ran it. And the A&P moved in, and the A&P moved in to where I lived downstairs, and where the barber shop was, and where it still is. And that was all A&P down there. And then where the Hungry Pallet was a drugstore, Francis Birch drugstore. And then across the street where the beauty parlor is now was an ice cream parlor. And then after the stairs was a delicatessen. And after that was a little restaurant. And then Morris the Brewer. I guess the restaurant was right where Morris the Brewer was. Then there was a shoe shop and a tailor shop. Then he had a tailor shop right where Mary's antique shop is now. That was larger. And then right next to my store. And then there was a boarding house right next to Mary's shop. There was a boarding house. And rooms there. And next to me was George Robinson had an insurance company, and that's where Roy Cole's wife lived, where they were married.
Is that the building that has the bank vault?
Yeah, there was a bank, and there was a bank before he had that, and the bank was owned by a relative of his. That's how he got it. Got the office, insurance office. I don't remember the bank.
Who was the man that had the insurance company?
George Robinson. And then there's been a lot of people in that since then. And the candy shop. But that part of it. And then there was across where the architect is now. There used to be a variety store there, run by two maid ladies that lived down in that little house across from Dennis Adele's two houses, next to the Joseph's house. They had a little variety store there, and they sold clothing and news and all that stuff. Sarah Sheffield. She was good in the superintendent of school where sister lived. No, Miss Durgan was principal of the lower buildings. Just the same as the superintendent of school.
What year was that? And Mr. Snyder was there in the high school when you were at the high school?
He was there before I went to high school. He was there when Miss Durgan was principal of the grammar school, and he was there when I was in kindergarten. He was there for a long, long time. Then I got into high school. I think he left when I got into high school. was there. And I used to, people used to stay in these jobs for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't changing around then like oh, and there was 3 more stores down to the shop. There was one store on this street, Portuguese store.
On School Street?
Yeah, right where the Hayes live now.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another one down there Fuller's lived. There was a store there.
Well, Nanny's Doghouse was down there.
Yeah, Alec Keane. Well, I was supposed to be store. I was supposed to be store. And Alec Keane lived in the house just as you go up over the street and go right down in front of it. And the Fullers, it's the Fullers here, and I forget the woman that lived next to Joseph's house. She was a neighbor.
Oh, I know. Joseph's house is the big one.
Yeah, the big
Mm.
so family comes out in the summer. That's all I can
So what kind of a house was that? I mean, what kind of a store was that where the DeKays lived on School Street?
Well, that was Portuguese store where they bought Greaser and chorizo and all Portuguese.